The book was written out of concern for higher education. We're both higher educators by profession, and also we're blessed by great teachers. Had a concern about trends we saw in higher education. Higher education has historically not been very good at finding out what the students want and what they need, making assumptions about this. What we'll have now in the future will be a wide array of choices for the students. When do I learn? Where do I learn? What do I learn? How do I learn? And so they'll be able to make choices that are not only unique to them, but vary through time. And they're going to say, well, this semester, I'd like to go to college. Or this semester, I'm going to be at college, but I'm going to take half my courses online. Or this semester, I'm going to go to China, and I'm going to take half as many courses, and they'll all be online. One group of people are those students who are not getting the kind of higher education they'd like to get and that they might get at an affordable price. So we'd love to see movement in that direction, where non-consumers, as Clay calls them, become consumers of higher education. We'd also like to prevent disruption of these great traditional colleges and universities, which do things that are invaluable, but have got so many things tied together, the research tied to the undergraduate instruction, that if their tuition revenues were to fall off too far and their state subsidies were to diminish, we could have disruption of institutions that are performing vital functions.
The theory of disruption was the study that led to the insight came from my observation that if you look across the sweep of business history, almost in every instance, a company that at one point was widely regarded as unassailably successful, a decade or two later you find them in the middle of the pack or often at the bottom of the heap. And I observed that what is it that causes successful companies to fail is rarely that somebody beats them by coming into the market with a better product, but rather it's somebody that comes at the bottom of the market actually with a product that's not as good as the leaders are making. But this one is just a lot simpler, a lot more affordable, so that a much larger population of customers can now own it and use it.
We think that what's happening for the first time in over a century is that online learning is a disruptive technology that is allowing this kind of entry into the market at the bottom of the market that Clay describes and has documented so well, and in the beginning looked very inferior, in fact was in most ways very inferior to what was happening in traditional colleges and universities. But it's getting better, and it's much less expensive, not least because you don't have the brick and mortar. But it's not just the expense to the provider, it's the expense to the consumer, who has to give up a job in their place of residence and move to a traditional college campus. When you combine those two things, the very much lower cost of delivery and the lower cost of attendance at the university, you're talking about an order of magnitude cost advantage.
And there are actually a lot of customers who would love to get a college education, but the last thing in the world they'd like to do is go to campus. They've got children, they've got a job, and this is so much better than being pinned into a career that they just don't want. That this is actually, from the very beginning, an exciting opportunity.
And I think we're uniquely positioned here to say, based upon what we've seen in all these other industries, what's the way for higher education to go?
For the first time in my own academic life, I think we've been able to articulate why it is that so many universities in the future are going to run into trouble in continuing to do things the way they've always done them. That's clear in the book. But what's wonderful about it is that thanks to the work that Henry has done, we can also articulate how you solve the problem.